The Nintendo GameCube controller for NSO Switch Online might be the most surprising release that Nintendo has put out during the Switch 2 era here. It's been a very short era. We're only a week in, not even a week in since the Switch 2 came out. And this guy was one of the biggest surprises we had in that original Direct for the Switch 2. Now, I have a list of good and bad things about this controller that I think you guys should be aware of. So I'm going to talk about them. We're going to start with my favorite things about this controller. And then we're going to finish up with the bad because some of them are expected and some of them may not be. So let's talk about the fact that this is one of only 3 controllers that is known right now to wake the Switch 2 from sleep. The Switch 2 has removed functionality of any previous Nintendo first-party controllers to wake the system from sleep, as well as known controllers that wake the Switch from sleep, including 8BitDo and any third-party controller. So that is a bit of a bummer, but as far as this controller is concerned, that's a benefit of it because it's, again, one of the few that will actually wake the console from sleep. Another really awesome thing about this controller is the sticks. I didn't remember this from back in the day when I played a GameCube. I didn't own one, so I didn't have like hours and hours with it. My friends had one. I went over to their house and played it. So I don't remember this little fact, but these sticks have rubber coating on them. And it's not just like a rubber stick cap, excuse me. It's literally like the whole like plastic is molded with rubber inside of it. So it's actually incredible, including the C stick. It's one of the more surprising feeling things about this controller. The nubbin, I thought I was a person who hates the nubbin, but it turns out I really enjoy the nubbin. And while we're on the topic, what's this called? The octagonal gates on the GameCube, they feel spectacular, just like you remember when you played the system back in the day. Feels fantastic. Ergonomics in the hand, speaking of fantastic, oh my god, there's a reason why Nintendo and other third parties keep trying to remake this controller and capture that, magic of the GameCube controller, because the ergonomics are fantastic. Now, that's for me. I've heard other people say otherwise. As far as for me, now a lot of you who have followed the channel for a long time know I have like weird issues with controller ergonomics. They have to be particular. I need like a big meaty controller, and this thing definitely suits that. It's nice. It's got plenty, as you can see, my fingers all wrap right around where they need to go, some extra space. That's fantastic. I really love the ergonomics of this thing, more than I thought I would, honestly. So I've tried other third-party, I made a review on this channel, the Nixie Wizard, and that was a very good controller for what it was, but you just can't match the original GameCube controller, and man, it's a good one. And it's got that Nintendo seal of quality on it. It just looks fantastic. The color is exactly the way I remember the purple GameCube controller looking like. Everything about this really, in terms of what I just talked about, is fantastic. But there's a few things that are going to be a hindrance, and mostly for people who are going to try to use this controller outside of the NSO app, which this is very clearly specifically designed for. And the first thing we'll talk about is no click-in sticks. You cannot click these sticks in. They do not have the functionality. They feel great. I didn't talk about the tension. The tension's really good in these sticks. They just feel so good in premium, but I noticed that right away. I'm like, oh, I can't click the sticks in. So that's a bit of a bummer. There's lots of games, mostly modern games, that use click-in sticks, and that's not going to be usable for that. Most games don't take advantage of these analog triggers. These triggers are wonderful. One thing I did note was I was hoping, because they were analog and had that functionality, I was hoping that as soon as the analog trigger was engaged, basically what I mean is as soon as that first pressure was put on, I was hoping that would act as the click. That would act as the input for the trigger. And I was playing some Mario Kart World with this controller, so I want to try it out because it's got the big A button. That's the gas button in that game, so it feels great to use that. But then I tried to drift with this guy, and you have to get all the way down, and then once you get all the way down and there's one more final click right at the very bottom of it, that's where it registers. So you have to get all the way down. So it's basically got to register twice. You got to press it, not twice, but there's 2 pressure points. The first initial pressure point to get the analog down, and then the click of the very obvious, button that's on that board down below this trigger. I wonder if this even has analog triggers at all, because some analog triggers I've tried other analog triggers on the Switch 1, and while it doesn't support analog triggers, it does register that first analog pressure as the click. This one doesn't do that. This is nothing. You do this all day long, this is nothing, which is kind of weird to me. It's not only to get, boom, that second level. You can see it, like all this is nothing. And then Boom, that's the click. And I don't like that. I wish it was just like the first pressure. You know, I wish I didn't have to go all the way down. You got to bottom it out. That doesn't feel good. So it's not, again, not going to bode well for games other than NSO, other games outside of NSO games. This is the really, really big one you need to know about. Now, this is not my own discovery. I found this on the internet. Don't remember who, but shout out to the person who did figure this one out. Well, first we'll talk about the ZL button first, because it's about the ZL button. So the ZL button obviously wasn't on the GameCube originally. We just had the Z button. So the ZL button is the bumper button, okay, on the left side. And it's tiny. As you can see, I hopefully have a better shot of it, but I mean, this is basically the best you're going to get. Here's the ZL button. It's that little baby button right there. And okay, fine. GameCube games are going to use it. I know this is made to play GameCube games with, so not a big deal. It's cool that it's there, and then it's at least providing a somewhat functional button if I need it. Well, if I need it is an implication for games that are not in NSO. So when you go to play a game in NSO, here's the big kicker. If you notice on a regular Pro Controller, here's the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller. You have the bumpers, which I refer to them as, I'm an Xbox guy originally. We have R and L, and the trigger buttons are labeled ZR and ZL. That is important to note, because on this guy, where the bumper on the regular Pro Controller, which this thing is going to emulate in non-Switch 2, non-NSO games, the R button is the trigger, and the bumper is the Z button, and the Z button, effectively this is acting as ZR, and ZR is the trigger. So they're flip-flopped. So that makes a big deal in games where you use the trigger, like a shooting game, let's say. Actually, we'll use Breath of the Wild as a perfect example. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, okay? So you got your bow, and in that game, you're going to use the left trigger. Actually, is it the ZL? No, this is the shield, and then the same thing applies. The bow is ZR. So in Breath of the Wild, you're going to be using the bow with the Z button, effectively acting as the ZR button, which is not good. And if you're trying to shield in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, well, that's where this little nubbin comes in, right here. That's your shield, friends. So if you're trying to play Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, you're not going to be able to use this thing legitimately. I didn't mention this earlier, but this does have gyro, so you would think it actually would work. And in fact, things like the other controls I tried, like the Nixie Wizard, did work. They had the proper size buttons, had gyro, actually felt pretty good in the game like Breath of the Wild. This is totally usable in a game like Breath of the Wild, except for this particular one is not, because of the issues we just talked about. So again, then that means the triggers on this thing are the bumpers. So it's all backwards and reversed. And the main two buttons, which are the triggers, in most games they use the triggers, not the bumpers, are going to be this Z button, which is fine. It's a little tiny, but that's okay. It's like, oh, I got to use that one. It's really, this is the issue right here. This ZL. Like, what were they thinking? And this is an issue because Nintendo doesn't allow you to remap buttons easily. Per game basis, you can't do it. You have to do it through the system menu. Nintendo doesn't really bake in into their games. They don't really bake in, button switching up. So it's kind of dumb. You can do it on a system level, but then you got to then get 4 profiles. So that's a thing. You can only make 4 profiles, and it's on a system level. So everything you do, including menus and stuff, is going to be button mapped, re-button mapped. So that's just not a good thing. And finally, there's no minus button on this thing, so there's just simply no minus button. There is a capture button, there's a home button, there's a pairing button, it's got USB-C at the top, charge it up, all great things, but there's no freaking minus button. Nintendo, I get you don't want to ruin the aesthetic right here, but just put the minus button up here somewhere. I don't understand why you didn't do that. So you just can't use minus button menus, or whatever the minus button is used for the game you're playing. You just can't do it. So these are fantastic controllers. I'm going to do a review on this one too. But this guy right here is just really, really good for all the reasons I explained. But then just a bunch of questionable decisions Nintendo could have made, because they could have updated the sticks to have the click in button. They simply just could have did that. It would have ruined nothing about the original GameCube aesthetic and everything like that. It would have done nothing but enhance this controller that you're paying $65 for. That is $15 more than you paid for this one. And this was a really good, I think this is a good value. Like, how many people are making N64 controllers out here for the Switch? Like, nobody. So $50, I'll take that. It's the only one on the market. There's a lot of there's a lot of game controls on the market, a ton of them. Some of them as good or better than this one. Actually, I would say most of them are better than this one, simply because they have the inputs that function for modern games, where this one does not. This is a $65 museum that you only use for NSO, and like maybe like side scrollers that you don't need to use the minus button in the game for functionality, and or the triggers. So maybe play some classic Mario with this. I mean, the D-pad is fantastic. This is a fantastic D-pad to use, like if you're trying to play some OG Mario and you don't have the SNES or the NES controllers from the NSO, you can use this one. This D-pad is small. It is small, but it is very good. Yeah, so these are my thoughts here on the GameCube controller. If you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. And I do a podcast. The link is in the description. We do a podcast every week. We just hit 1,000 subscribers. We're super happy about that. And it's perfect timing for the Switch 2 as we keep on rolling, releasing new content live Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern every single week, as well as extra little additional videos that we put out. And talk to us, hang out and chat. This week, we're talking about this big puppy right here, the Switch 2. Cannot wait to dive deeper into this guy once again. I am loving my time with this thing. If you guys are loving your time with this thing, Switch 2 being, let me know in the comments down below. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one.